Hi, my name is Melanie Weller, and I am very excited to be with you here today to talk about leadership compression points and the biomimicry of influence. I come from a very non-traditional background as far as leadership development is considered. I am a physical therapist, and I've been doing that for 25 years, and I was an athletic trainer before that. So I've really been working with people's bodies for the better part of 30 years. And in doing so, I've had an amazing evolution of things. I've branded myself for a long time as a stress management expert. And my clinical expertise and a system I developed is in treating the vagus nerve as a pinched nerve. And it's your big stress. Your vagus nerve goes all the way from your brainstem to your pelvis. It's your big stress and pleasure mediating nerve. It innervates your vocal cords, it innervates your heart, and it innervates your digestive system. And that's just a fraction, a teeny tiny fraction of all the amazing things your vagus nerve does. The research overwhelmingly shows that when your vagus nerve is functioning better, you feel better, you are functioning better. You're healthier, you're more grounded, and it's really just an incredibly important part of having your grace under pressure, of being in the zone where athletes and entertainers are most known to give great performances. And so I have, what has evolved over the years in my practice is the realization of how much these vagus nerve compression points really relate to compression points in life and compression points in business. My superpower is helping people identify the spiritual and stress-related underpinnings of their physical dysfunction. And just because people with physical dysfunction are the ones that have come to me the most over the years, and I'm branching that out into people that are not particularly showing up with physical dysfunction necessarily, but that are showing up with limitations in their life and limitations in their business and difficulty accessing their genius and their ability to get their message out and be major influencers in their communities and in their areas of expertise. And so why is this important? And I will say that getting this right in your body and even treating your business like a body is the shortest path to your highest potential. And your mind, for all the really amazing mindset stuff that's out, your mind will lie to you all day long. When you have used a mindset tool to really shift things for you, I would contend that you have not really shifted your mind, you have shifted your body, because your mind will lie to you all day long. Your body will tell you the truth, and you have to embody the change that you desire. And when you have physical and energetic misalignments, it can make that really complicated. So it's not about your mindset, it's about your body set, and it's about your business set. And we can use these same principles because part of what I've discovered in my own development and what I've turned into a form of energy medicine and use as basically a coaching tool or guidance tool is how story lives in the body. And your vagus nerve is really the bridge between your body and your story. And we all have a story, our businesses have a story. And so when our story's about trauma, our vagus nerve gets dialed down and that bridge is very fragile. When our story is about resilience and initiation and invitation, that bridge gets stronger and you are able to function better and your body and your business make connections that you could have never dreamed possible, or that maybe you have been dreaming that they were possible and that they were just really difficult. I'll give you just a little snippet of how this works. One, there are angles in the body that mimic the angles of the Earth and the Earth in relationship to the stars, particularly the pole stars, that if you are not, those are not in place, then you are less likely to be in flow with your life. The other piece of it is how mythology was a mode of transmitting scientific information. And so we can really use story to help identify those spiritual and stress-related underpinnings of the physical dysfunction. And this works with Western astrology in the way that the ventricles of your brain look very much like the ram's horns for Aries, and in astrology, Aries rules the head, and the way your hyoid bone sits on top of your larynx looks very much like the symbol for Taurus, and Taurus rules the throat. And your aortic arch is the same shape as the symbol for Leo, and Leo rules the heart, and it works this way the whole way through the body. And it not only works through Western astrology, it works through the Vedas and the Hindu pantheon, it works through Egyptian mythology, and every time I delve into a different domain like Celtic mythology, these stories live in our bodies in very specific ways, and even symbols and logos live in our bodies in very specific ways. And so, like, if you're a branding professional and you are trying to influence people's bodies, people to move in a particular way to buy your product, which is certainly what, at some level what every business person is doing, the way your logo sits in the body will influence how people move with that. So, like for example, FedEx has a very spinal logo. Like even our national symbol in the United States, the eagle sits in our heads. We have a bone in our head that looks like a winged animal or an owl or an eagle, and that's a big part of our vision. And so the way that these symbols are used really affects how our perceptions and how our bodies move as well. And so developing an awareness around that is very important for your own sovereignty and for developing influence as well. So back to the vagus nerve and getting into these leadership compression points. So your vagus nerve gets compressed at six major places, and they're all where we have horizontal structures in the body. So for example, we know that trauma always affects the voice and the breath, and your vocal cords and your diaphragm are horizontally oriented in your body. And what happens when we get traumatized is it locks up rotation. Nobody gets traumatized and has really great arm swing when they walk. When you get traumatized or stressed, you lock up and you lose arm swing. You don't move as loosely and freely. And so those six compression points are the base of the skull, the vocal cords, your thoracic inlet, which is a series of structures through here, mainly the opening in your ribs, at the top of your ribs. It happens at the level of your heart, at the level of your pulmonary veins, because they go horizontally, but your vagus nerve gets compressed typically on the backside of your heart. And I'm going to talk about this when I talk about the how compression point. And so it gets compressed the vagus nerve also gets compressed at the diaphragm and at the pelvic floor. And so when you start to put together the mythology and the angles and the archetype and the physical structure, that when people get compressed at the vagus nerve is compressed at the head, or when your business is compressed at the head, when the head of the business is experiencing leadership compression, often the heroics are at odds with the desires, and that impairs vision. And so this can show up as being a hero in someone else's story, in someone else's vision, in someone else's desires. It can express internally as neck tightness, headaches, vision issues, and dizziness. It can express externally as rejection, being unseen, being unheard, and even being kind of too loud, too domineering. So that's the headpiece. So I'm just going to run through the other ones really quick. I know this is a lot of information in a little bit of time, but if you want to connect with me to talk more about bringing this into your business, I'm really happy to do that. And that link is, if you sign up for the free gift, you will get the link to be able to do that. So the next compression point for the voice is where your adaptability and your emotions are at odds with each other, and it interferes with your identity. And this will show up as some voice, shoulder, neck issues physically. So when you're working in someone else's identity, or just in an identity that's not yours, you're not working from a place of authenticity, that will show up in this region of the body. And sometimes this also goes with an inability to receive, and it can be in my business coach training, we talked a lot about this. This will show up as an addiction to being right. And very often, I would say an addiction to being wrong. You know, when we think we're right about ourselves and we're not, that's really not, you could call it an addiction to being right, but it's really, an addiction to something that's not authentic about ourselves. But it's really, it can be really hard to let go of those things. And I appreciate that. I've worked really hard, and even just letting go of the bodywork piece of my practice at some level to make room for this new piece has been a little bit like having to pry my hands open and let go of the place where I thought I was right about my destiny for a long time, where I thought I was supposed to be a highly credentialed physical therapist. And I have a lot of letters after my name from my professional association, and that's not really where I show up the best for everybody. When I show up as the high priestess and with this deep wisdom to help others see into the dark, that's where I really thrive, and where other people get the best benefit from working with me. The other thing that happens when your adaptability and emotions are at odds with each other, that can sometimes show up as being the doormat. That somebody, when somebody's not standing fully in who they are, like they're adapting to everybody else versus at the expense of themselves. That's another thing that shows up there. So more in the heart space. And I'll just run back. So when your heroics are at odds with your desires, that interferes with your what. When your adaptability is at odds with your emotions, that interferes with your who. When your operating point is at odds with your practices, it impairs your nourishment and your how. And so this is the level of the heart. And so physically, the vagus nerve gets compressed on the backside of the heart, and this can go with a lot of upper back tightness. It can go with inflammation. It can even relate to diabetes and metabolic syndrome, which I'm not going to take the time to fully explain here, but it can show up as burnout, as disorganization, as food sensitivities. And what I want to tie it back to when I brought up the heart earlier is one of my favorite pieces of wisdom is from a tribe in the Andes Mountains in South America. And they say that your future is behind you, propelling you forward, and your past is in front of you, waiting for you to make peace with it and clear your way. And I absolutely love, love, love that. And for me, that's just it feels so deeply true about how time and our past and our futures live in our bodies. And to imagine that your future isn't something that you have to chase, that your future has your back and it's taking you where you're supposed to go, and to really be able to connect with the backside of your body and have the space there to allow the how to come in, because we can all do a lot to control the who, what, when, where of things, but very often we have to let the universe bring us the how. And so a lot of that is just creating the space for that to happen and the awareness. So moving down into your diaphragm, abdominal area, when your judgment and creativity are at odds with each other, it impairs your purpose and your when. So this can show up as low back and reproductive organ issues. When you're living in someone else's purpose with someone else's judgment and in someone else's creativity, that it leads to a lack of discernment. It can lead to abuse patterns, and it can lead to physical elimination issues. And so there's this beautiful, we all have these amazing trinities in our bodies. Like, we're literally made in trinity. And so I love how, as this has all come together for me, that it has showed up in Trinity, because we come from the embryonic level from 3 layers. We come from an endoderm, a mesoderm, and an ectoderm, and we come from like, our arteries have 3 layers, our muscles have, on a large scale, have 3 layers to them, and they're all like an endomysium. Like, they're all the endoderm, mesoderm, ectoderm kind of level. There's an inner layer, a middle layer, and an outer layer. And I'm just in a space right now where some of those words are escaping me because I'm all in the business mindset of it. But like, our nerves have 3 layers to them. There's an endoneurium, a mesoneurium, and an epineurium. And so to be able to, so really we are made in Trinity at the deepest levels, and we live on the 3rd planet from the sun. And when we work in Trinity with our bodies and with our lives, we make really, really big transformations. And certainly all major religions understand this, because they are also full of trinities. All right, so when your inspiration and your structure are at odds with each other, it impairs your memory and your why. And this often shows up in hip and knee issues, and it shows up in your bones. It makes it difficult for you to target your blessings, and it can absolutely show up as excess worry and low back pain. But connecting with your memory, your like, that deepest memory of who you are and why you came here, why you incarnated, is so important. I know a lot of people have spiritually based businesses now, but it really, you can connect with this without even having to be super spiritual. This can be a very pragmatic approach to connecting it, because when you are working with what inspires you and your own structure and the structure of your business, you really will start to remember things you didn't even know you forgot, and you might even improve your own memory in the midst of that. And so I was just working yesterday with a client on this process that was actually, she doesn't have any diagnosed memory issues, and she's quite young for that, but we were really working on how her inspiration and structure in her life were getting in her business, because she's trying to take her business to a super big scale, or at the moment compromising her memory. And the last compression point, moving down to the pelvic floor, is where your transformation and your rootedness are at odds with your aegis, with your protection, with your boundaries, and that impairs your where. So you can't necessarily it ends up making it hard to be at the right place at the right time. This can show up as issues in your calves, shins, and feet, and ankles. It can also tie into the pelvic floor, and if you're thinking into root chakra issues, and it can leave you feeling, when it's dysfunctional, it can leave you feeling stuck, vulnerable, and not vulnerable in the good kind of Brene Brown way, and it leaves you kind of spongy and on unstable ground. So anyway, those are the 6 leadership compression points in my system, and they, like I said, they tie into the vagus nerve compression point. They use the vagus nerve as a model of biomimicry to help with transformation in people's bodies and people's businesses on a multidimensional level. And I would love to hear from you. I hope you'll take advantage of my free gift. This is a very new offering, so I don't have a ton about it on my website yet, but that's all coming. And the email, if you sign up for the free gift, it'll also give you other ways to connect with me. And I'm going to take a moment here and just say thank you to those of you that are watching right now. And Reba, you're very welcome. I'm glad that you're finding it so helpful and fascinating, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to bring this here. and I hope I will hear from you. You can also email me directly at ask@melanieweller.com. Thank you.